Thank you very much for everyone for joining us. I hope you had a very good break. As you can see, we are all being thrust into a new age of webinars, technologies, and summits. And as we have people from across the world on this summit today, we know that you all have different platforms, different Wi-Fi connectivities, different capabilities in terms of being able to live stream is running. We are having some challenges, we know, in terms of people being able to receive, but please hold with us. We are very grateful that you are, and we're very grateful that you're joining us. We're now going to move on to the next panel, which, interestingly enough, is all about technology and how it's able to connect in terms of technology lessons to be able to make us more resilient. So it is my great pleasure to pass on the virtual stage to Lee Hayhurst, the editor of Travolution. Lee, over to you.
Great, thank you very much, Anita. So yes, as Anita said, we're now going to look at the can play. We've heard a lot this morning about how there needs to be collaboration, but the key thing is how technology can assist that, so that protocols and communications can happen across the tourism industry. So we have 5 speakers in this next session. It's quite a short session, so we're going to bring them in quickly. And first, we've got Greg Land, who is the Global Industry Leader for Hospitality and Travel. What I'll do is I'll ask each of the speakers to answer by way of introducing themselves and their companies, to answer the question about what that they do. What is it that they do that has been relevant in the COVID-19 crisis to date and will be going forward? So we'll start off with Greg, and then we'll go through the speakers as in the agenda.
Great, thank you, Lee. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. And in my role at IBM, I work globally with our aviation, hospitality, and travel services clients. And right now, we're working with our clients to help them pivot towards recovery. And a lot of that is about gaining the trust of the fell down here, is gaining the trust of the traveler and getting the traveler back to the road. So with that, I'll cover some slides just really quickly, 3 quick slides. And these are 3 slides from a point of view deck that we recently published to talk about recovery for travel providers. And number 1, much like 9/11, it's all about regaining the trust. This time it's about regaining trust around public health. And if we'll go to the next slide. There we go. And when you look at this trust model, it's in the data, but it's about transparency and traceability in the data. Number 1, travel providers and tourism providers are going to have to show the public that their staff and their employees are healthy. And that may mean exposing data and making their procedures more transparent than they have been in the past. And so we're working with travel providers to make this possible. And if we'll go to the next slide, there are a lot of existing technologies out there that help us do this. And with closed circuit TV cameras and mobile devices that are currently in place with many of the travel providers, we provide the analytics behind that. It's visual analytics, where we video feed, and you can tell crowd density. You can tell if people shouldn't be in a certain area. You can monitor no-go zones, but you can also even monitor face detection. And then with the addition of thermal cameras, in real time, we can also monitor crowds and look at body temperature and fever detection. So these are some of the initial ways that we are working with travel providers around the world to really help them prepare their staff, keep their staff healthy, but also show that their staff are healthy and there to help them. So with that, I'll pass it back to you, Lee.
Lovely, thank you, Greg. Okay, next up we've got Robin Ingle, Chief Executive of Ingle International. So again, Robin, just quickly introduce yourself, but explain the role that you've got in this particular crisis and how you see things moving forward. Over to you, Robin.
I want to give you a background. I get involved in mobility insurance, healthcare services, travel, member engagement and loyalty, as well as security services. So we have existing technology, and we're looking at how will we as human beings navigate the future? How will we travel? And part of that is integrating all of the known technology. making sure that we can provide a user interface for the traveler to make it easy for them. Next slide. We need to take this products and build in the mapping of where there are risks, and the risks from the COVID-19, but also other kind of risks that are available. Helping build that trust within individuals and giving them so they can understand how they can go cross borders, how they can board an airline, and how they can access a hotel. Next slide. Data analytics and reporting is very important also for high-end users. So these are corporations that are sending their staff traveling for duty of care, making sure that there are health statistics for a hospitality industry, for example, so they can measure their staff, so they can integrate the testing with the information that they're getting from other sources, as well as know what the risk in their area is for the health. We believe in a collaborative environment. There are best of breed companies to create a solution to help build travel, to re-engage in travel. It is so important for us as human beings to have the ability to connect with others. And that's something we've been missing since this lockdown. Thank you, Lee.
Great, thank you, Robin. Okay, next up, as per the agenda, we'll hear from Akame Tsunagawa, who is the Chief Executive of Bespoke. Okay.
Well, thank you, Lee. Hi, everyone. My name is Akame. So Bespoke is a company I built about 5 years ago. And at Bespoke, we do real-time customer engagement using AI. So this is the AI built on our own, emergency communication for travel entities, destinations, and governments. For COVID-19 specifically, we created a chatbot for the Japanese government to help respond to questions from tourists and then also residents. And at the same time, we then report back to the government so they can tailor information like a chicken and egg situation. They need to understand what people want to know about so they can put in more information that is relevant to people. So people find the link to the bot when they access to the government site or they access to public Wi-Fi places like airports, railway stations, and there's no additional down. We've been able to different trains over the last like few months to be able to share with the government so they can enhance, improve the kind of like information they provide to the people. So for instance, like passengers weren't allowed to catch trains if they came from like Europe or like different areas, including like North America, but the announcement wasn't very clear to those people. And these people kept asking like if they can still take trains or not. So we catch those people, and then next day did their announcement to the virus doesn't spread over. And right now, like about 30% of restrictions, actions. So surprisingly, many people are still interested in returning or traveling to Japan, for instance, and they're trying to get information. So this is like a great opportunity to bring more people back if right information can be delivered at right timing. And over to you.
Good. Thank you, Akame. So we saw Tony earlier on in a pre-recorded message as one of our sponsors. Now we're beamed in from Hong Kong. Tony Smith, SVP from i3 Group. Again, a bit about your company and the role you're playing currently and you think you're playing going forward.
Good morning, everybody from Hong Kong. i3 Group, we are a Travolution company, so we basically look at connectivity and try and keep people who are traveling connected wherever they are. Not many people are traveling, so that gave us a bit of a wonder of what we were supposed to do while people aren't traveling and keep the business going. And we looked at types of put into place, and we put in our safe travel kind of program. And it's a two-tiered approach. One is technical. We're looking at smart kiosks that we're going to deploy airports and healthcare facilities that can actually dispense masks and sanitary protection. And also, we've actually gone to the germ protection series of products that we can use for microbial protection on surfaces and on people. So we're really looking at how we can introduce our 5G that can actually dispense products, but also can be used as digital notification for airports, for hospitals, and for destinations.
Lovely, great. Thank you, Sonia. Good to see you. Okay, let's over to Spain now, and we're going to hear from Carlos Sendra, who's the CMO at Mabrion Technologies. So again, just introduce yourself quickly and a bit of an explanation as to the role you're playing at the moment in this sector.
Thank you, Lee. Hello, I'm Spain. Yeah, well, Mabrion is a big data company. We are specialized on transforming data into information to help basically destinations and companies identify and predict travelers' behavior and dynamics. Our role during this crisis is really helping destinations and companies to know what to do, to be agile, to react in a agile way into this situation by understanding persons and dynamics of the demand. Since this is totally new, historical data and previous experience are not useful anymore to take decisions. So we are helping these decision makers to know what's going on currently and what are the dynamics coming upwards, right? This is an example where we were seeing, for example, a slide where how the security perception for the US potential travelers, and I mean potential since we are not travelers right now, but we can measure how is it evolving from the 1st of February, the perception, security perception for this potential traveler for 3 different destinations in Europe, Greece, Spain, and Italy. And it's so clear how the evolution, it's been really different in any of countries, especially in the case of Greece, where the security perception had some fluctuations, but it's been much more stable than Italy and Spain, obviously. And if we go to the next slide, the direct effect of that security perception index into the demand. So in this graph, we see the evolution of the US potential travelers' demand through flight searches from to travel to these destinations from the 15th to the 15th of July during this year, and it's been evolving and related to the security perception indicators, right? We can see how in the beginning of this graph, by the beginning of March, the order of demand was Spain, Italy, and Greece, which is the green line. See how Greece, it's increasing day by day and taking over the demand for Italy, and probably it's going to be taking over also the demand for Spain in the next few days. It's the security perception, it's affecting the demand patterns. It's just an example of how the type of data we are monitoring and can predict these types of new dynamics in this new era. Thank you, Lee.
I should have unmuted, and I can ask all the speakers to mute yourselves while you're not speaking, and then remember to unmute yourself when you're speaking, which I do just then. So, what's apparent introducing all 5 of you is not only your own geographical spread. We've got people from Japan to Hong Kong to the States, Spain, etc. But that you're all what you do, but you are very much aligned in terms of it's all about technology. and that clearly is going to be very important. We've heard people talk all morning about the kind of protocols, what operators are going to need, how they're going to communicate that to their customers, and so on. And that's going to be absolutely key. But at the heart of it, technology will allow that to happen. So just Robin, firstly, when you've spoken previously at Resilience Council summits, talked about this network effect of the industry being everybody can do everything on their own, and it's going to need to be this collaboration, not just between countries, regulators, and so on, but actually the tech companies like you guys to provide an overall suite of solutions.
Yeah, for the last 15 years, we've been building integration products to integrate services to help individuals navigate problems. So healthcare, for example, health literacy is travel risk, security issues are low. If we're getting information from multiple sources, it really helps. And with COVID, that's going to be important. Not every country is going to agree with every other country on what their border requirements are. So integrating that into a usable format, for example, with our Travel Navigator application, so the user then knows what they need to do when they get to the airport, what they need to do when they get to the plane, what they need to do when they arrive, what they need to do when they're going through border security, what the health checks are, and integrating a health certificate with the security information that's there, or having them so that they can access Wi-Fi with an iFree SIM card, or the chatbot, or getting the big data AI is all going to be important. And I think Greg mentioned this at the beginning, is taking technology is what's going to be needed, because it's the same as a vaccine. If you try to make net new, it's going to be hard, there's going to be bugs in it, and you're not going to develop it for a long time. And what we have to do is build that trust in travelers, get them out to travel, and help them with this complexity, you know.
Greg, there's a lot of is going to be all sort of providing various travel stakeholders. They've been around a while. It's not exactly new stuff, and they've been in development. And, you know, the vision has always been that we'll have a frictionless travel experience. Do you think COVID is going to just speed that level of adoption up, because now we see it as being not just a nice to have, but an essential?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And you know, most travel companies, if they've got a decent mobile app, everybody has enjoyed great adoption from the consumer. But the ones who were really ahead of the curve are the ones that started rolling out this past year or two mobile apps for their employees. So we have a suite of mobile apps that are out there with pilots, flight attendants, ground handlers, gate agents, everybody. And it's those that are going to really make the difference. Because I think what the consumer is going to really expect is, as much as possible, a completely touchless, experience without degrading the customer experience. So in addition to adding functionality in the B2C consumer app for travelers, where they can basically do everything from the mobile app, we're also using what's called a mesh kit to allow mobile to mobile device communication. So without even approaching the gate at an airport, I can make a request through the mobile app for that airline. The gate agent can see it and respond to me, and I can be sitting 50 yards away. So we can really use this to facilitate the physical distancing at airports, at cruise ports, on rail platforms, and still have that with immediate response. And if you think about it, today, we all hover around the gate at an airport so we can see the departure screen and so we can hear all of the announcements. But if I have this mobile to mobile device interaction with the gate agent, or even the flight attendant who's preparing to board that flight, I can be sitting, on a sofa or a chair 50 yards away. So it's going to allow us to completely reposition the furniture and the seating areas around gates so that we don't have to have people congregating at the gate or on a rail platform or what have you, and they're still going to have that convenience. I think it could actually be an upgrade in the experience, because a lot of times today when I'm even sitting at the gate, you can't quite understand the announcement that's being made. So it's going to be a lot of mobile technology working hand in hand between both the staff of the travel provider as well as the traveler.
Yeah, it's certainly true. Until there's a vaccine or something where we can get beyond this, travel's going to have to look at every moment where we come together as groups and say, is that necessary? And actually, just to bring in Alchemy Bespoke, your chatbot, it was born out of a crisis. The idea for Bespoke, for the chatbot, came from the situation that Japan had a few years back. And you've always been all about trying to get people around the country in the most efficient manner so that you don't pinch points. But actually, it can come into its own during this period. Is that how you think Bespoke will really, forge the future of the travel experience?
I think so. So emergency communication is something that I feel strongly about, mostly because I almost died during the big earthquake back in 2011, getting stuck on high-rise building when I was still working for the investment bank. Part of the whole experience wasn't actually tsunami or nuclear plant blowing up, or not even earthquake. It was almost it's actually the experience after that. The British Embassy started evacuating their people out of the country because I don't think they actually had the full information on what was going on. And then the French Embassy started doing the same. And then things were disappearing from supermarkets just 2 months ago for the same COVID-19 crisis, and no idea what was happening. And that was the most scary part. And then looking back 2011, so that's 9 years ago, and then now it's 2020, and I still feel like what we experienced over the last 2 months was pretty much the same. People didn't know what was happening, and then people panic, and then buy them anymore. So the ones who need them can't buy them anymore. Same situation as face mask and all these different things. And then technologies can solve a lot of problems, but technology alone isn't really strong enough. So in our case, for instance, we use chatbot as the main, but then what's more important is actually the sources that we get. It needs to be credible, and it needs to be real time, and it really needs to be trustworthy. But then there's so many fake news out there, and it's just really hard to source credible information real time in different. Technology can play a big part of it, but then at the same time, each government and destination also needs to be able to provide information in the way people are looking for.
And Tony, obviously, clearly being able to use a chatbot, being able to get that information in real time, does require you to be connected, which is clearly what you provide as an eSIM, a SIM provider for people. How do you see that changing? I mean, people will be looking to get online as soon as they get to a destination because they're after this information. So they're really going to be, the demand isn't going to be an issue, and you'll be there to supply them with the ability to do that.
Yeah, and
sorry, one for Tony. Sorry,
go ahead.
Go on, you go, Tony.
All right, but so connecting everyone. You when you're flying, you can either be annoyed by it or not. When you hear just say fasten your seatbelts, you're just about to land, you hear all the beeping and bops from the WhatsApp messages and everything like that, and we haven't landed yet, and you're going hang on a minute, half so you can. So people want to be connected wherever they are. I think what we find is that it's not just about aspect of things, but people will want to get real-time information, and this is why with a Navigator app, you're getting all the crisis where you are and whenever and where you're about to go to. So I think when we talk about collaboration as well, we're looking at how we can work to get that information. Part of this Smart Kit in our Safe Travel initiative is that you've got smart retail, which can also double as communication devices, information, and also to act as a mesh network within areas to push messages and to push connectivity. So that's all going to work way. So the type of information we want is going to change.
And this isn't so. Information to the consumer is obviously important, as Akemi was saying, and Tony. But Carlos, companies themselves increasingly want real-time information to develop their strategies. They want to know the kind of things you were showing us earlier on. You know, what sentiments like out there, like. So presumably, you're going to see a lot more companies turning to companies like Mabrion who've got to plug that into their strategies, because it seems like going forward, they're going to need to be very flexible. Things are going to change quickly, and they have to react to that in really quick time, because they can't afford to wait and then find they're in a place where they're going to issue.
Yeah, totally. I'm totally agree with my colleagues in terms of making easy the travelers and solving a lot of concerns that are still on about how to travel, what are the protocols, the rules to follow to travel. But we might think also in the destination management and the company management in terms of how they and identify the new patterns on, since the as I said, historical data we have so far is not useful anymore to identify that. It's pretty important that destination managers and company managers can do this up-to-date data in real time, so they can just know how is it affecting in terms of security, in terms of interest. The interest of potential travelers are changing right now because of the new reality, right? So probably destinations where the main attractions was sunbathing is gonna change their offer, or they might have to change a little their offer, since this type of activities probably will be restricted somehow in some destinations, right? And this is something that it's going to be related not only with the situation at the destination, but also at the origin of the tourist, right? So there is a lot of things to take into account affecting the dynamics and also the demand of travelers that we might have into account. And there is nothing but actual and updated data that can help us to that.
It's obviously crucially important as countries are looking to develop bilateral air bridge agreements. They want to know what the sentiment is between those two countries, and how each country is developing and their protocols around COVID-19. Robin, let's bring you back in again. Akemi mentioned about getting the right information to people, that's trustworthy. That, you know, this is absolutely dead. There's a lot of fake news out there. There's a lot of poor advice, and governments will want to get the right advice in people's hands at the right time. Do you see that as being a challenge in this world where advice isn't difficult to come by, but knowing it's the right advice?
Well, we've got a perfect storm in the last 10 years. News and authorities have been downgraded, where you don't have the right. Social media sites happen to propagate a lot of false information. Even the other day, coming into my condominium, a security guard had a story that about people taking influenza vaccinations, that they were more susceptible to COVID, which is false. So 2006 is providing reliable information from verified sources to individuals regarding healthcare, for example. So we could help them navigate healthcare systems, medical conditions. We do medical second opinions. Then we developed in 2011 our Travel Navigator app to give real-time threat information, so that within globally we could present that within the app, location-based, where the individual was, into a big data mapping system. So we merged with a group called Near Threat, and they take billions of bits of data repeatedly during the day, and we move that into a mapping, go down to neighborhoods and provide that information directly to an individual, but filter it. You know, not everybody can handle all the information that's out there. So we try to give them in a way that they can understand it with their language formats, so that they properly to navigate the world and make informed decisions. That's a bigger part of what's going on now, is there's a lot of bad information, bad direction, and trying to help people. I think that's the biggest thing we have to do in the travel industry.
Yeah. So, just to bring Greg back going quick, so I'll be trying quick myself. We've got, and this is a societal issue. It's a travel and tourism and business issue, but it's at heart, it's a health issue. And our health data is very important to us, but it's also a lot of privacy around health data. So do you see privacy protocols having to change, and ethics around the use of data and the sharing of data changing because of this?
Point, because we're working with our healthcare industry as well, and we're looking at platforms that track this information down to the patient level. And so we've built in some functionality called Consent Manager, where the consent information being shared with anybody, even medical network. And so we're looking at how we can leverage some of the platforms we're building in the healthcare and life sciences space, and how that can be integrated with travel. And but yeah, every the privacy laws are going to have to change. I think it's something that's going to be taken into consideration. I mean, even in some of the work we've been doing with frictionless travel at airports, I think it was in Singapore, where just to take somebody's image against the law, and they had to go back to their parliament or Congress a couple of times to actually have laws change to be able to even capture somebody's image, use biometrics. So I think we're going to have similar situations, but it is a matter of public health, and it's going to affect us in the travel process as well. So I think we've just got to look at how those healthcare platforms and travel platforms can be integrated together. But we're already looking at advanced where they easily give that consent to have that information shared across networks.
Tony, is that something that comes on your radar? You providing the connectivity, but it's that security of knowing you're using something that isn't going to come back and bite you as a consumer, that you've done something you shouldn't have done, or you've opened yourself up to be vulnerable online.
Yeah, I think there's two sides of this. It's about the what sort of data that you're allowing to give away, and what is required by law, and then who's going to be responsible. That's always been an issue, and as we're getting more invasive with the type of data that may be required going forward, especially with the type of sanitized travel that's coming on board now, we have to watch that, and that's the trust between citizens and institutions. It's the trust between the user and the operator, and at very many levels. It's all about trust, and it's all about putting the protocols in place that provide the security that's required for that data.
Okay. And trust, you're asking people to trust the chatbot, to trust a robot to give them the answers to the questions they want. Do you see cultural change there? I mean, over in the part of the world where you come from, there's maybe there's maybe a cultural difference where people do trust chatbots, but you'd see that changing. You see people becoming more trustworthy of technology and of chatbots such as the ones that you provide.
Okay, so half of your question was kind of gone. So let me ask one more time. So your question was how do people chatbots?
Do you see more trustworthy of technology and chatbots as they use them more and they become more essential?
So to answer your question, I would say yes for the most part, but it really depends on the use case and how people use it. They don't have a choice, like emergency. Then it's still better than nothing. So for instance, it could be COVID-19. I want to get tested, but I keep calling the call center and it's not going through. Then if is available to give me another number of users, right? So we definitely do see people like using it.
Look, the time is telling to wrap up, and Anita's going to find me if I don't wrap up on time. So I'm going to have to wrap up, I'm afraid, guys. So, look, thanks to all 5 of you for that. To Greg, to Robin, Tony, thank you for your time. Thank you for catching in from wherever you were today. It's been really interesting. I think we could have gone on for longer, but thanks very much. And I'm going to hand it over to Anita. Thank you.